Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Lovely to see all your names popping up there every time we do this. Oops, I've made a mistake. Hang on. Sorry about that. I have to mute the other screen, and I thought I'd done it, but I didn't do it. So I apologize for that horrible noise you just experienced. Can you please type yes if you hear me clearly? That way I can relax and know I am not talking to myself. Hi, Michael. Hi, Carol. Just type yes so that you can, yes. Sweet. Okay. I have been given orders by Carol to give you this piece of information. I'll do it first so I don't forget. We now have a non-resident option open for England, which means that you can come and spend the day with us at the hotel, and but you would be staying in a bed and breakfast elsewhere, Airbnb elsewhere. We didn't have any of those, but all of the rooms in the hotel have now been filled. And so we are opening that option up if you'd like to not stay with us in the hotel. And there is a spot in a female shared room and a one-day spot. We have brought on one-day spots for those that cannot afford the whole retreat, so that you can come for just one day. And we have one of those available as well. So that's that. As for the YouTube thing, I haven't heard anything else about it. I just got the one warning, and somebody did point out that it could be a scam, and so that's a possibility. I don't know. Anyway, I did take the video down that I put up because it was causing such a kerfuffle with people. I did do it as an information, really, only just so that if you showed up and I wasn't there, you would know that you could find me elsewhere. So let's just leave that alone for now. I am going to start loading up the lessons on another platform when I have figured out which is the best one to do, so that I'm at least starting that process. I'm not doing it out of fear. I know things are happening on YouTube that alternative folks are being evicted. So I thought it's better just to prepare. I do have all of my videos archived though, so even if that does happen, I've got all of the information that I have produced over the years available. I do have another piece of news. The Course in Miracles Foundation for Inner Peace has given us permission to use the printed form of the lessons in the new book that is going to be produced early next year, which is going to be Jesus commentaries that are on YouTube. We're going to compile those into a companion text for A Course in Miracles. And so they very kindly gave me permission to use all of the lessons in that book. So that was very exciting because we didn't know if they would give us permission to do that. And now, Renee, we just have to get the publisher willing to do it in color so that we can do your art. So that's my next project, and I'm working on her to see if she'll do that. All right, let's get to it. Let's see what Jesus has to say to us today. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And as usual, we are very pleased that you have come together in your physical forms to connect in this virtual reality. This is much more like what is really happening in your world. Even though you are not together as bodies, you are always connected. And this is one of the revelations of your new age that is really becoming apparent, that you can affect the world by changing yourself and broadcasting that frequency out. It is literally happening with this being, where there are shifts and changes being made around the planet because of what she has been able to cultivate in herself. And this is something that you are all capable of. It does not mean that you have to do exactly what this dear one is doing. In fact, that's not recommended at all. This is her particular assignment, and she has been trained for many lifetimes to do this work. She does not have a conscious memory of that, because if you came in with a conscious memory of all your other incarnations, you would not be able to function here. You would have so much overwhelming information that you would not be able to experience the unique experiences that this incarnation is giving you. So we want to talk about this a little bit, because many of you are interested in past lives, but they are merely other aspects of you gathering information in another form. That is not more important, and it is not causative. It is not causing this incarnation. One of the erroneous ideas that has been perpetrated is the idea of linear time as it relates to past lives. And even though within this timeline, there are beings that can go back in this timeline and encounter other incarnations that they have had here, generally speaking, your other incarnations are in other timelines that are simultaneously taking place alongside this one. And so they are not causative in that sense. They may share traits. And so you may be a painter in one of those alternative lives, and you may like to paint in this life. And those aspects will communicate through time, space, and different dimensions to each other. And you may, in this lifetime, be painting the same thing as you are painting in another lifetime. And that is what has happened with this dear being, is that she has been an artist in many lifetimes. She has been a spiritual teacher in many lifetimes. And so these are combining in this particular incarnation as her passions. And this is one of the reasons why following your passions is important, because you are here in this particular body form, in this particular time and place, with things that need to be addressed that you have, through your pre-birth arrangements, decided that you want to explore some more in this lifetime. And if you do not, if you override that guidance and do not follow the creativity or the passion for music or the passion for travel or the gardening or whatever is your passion, if you put it aside and sacrifice it for other things that your society tells you are more important, well, they are not more important. These passions, these desires, these curiosities, these interests that you have deeply embedded within your psyche are the very things that you decided you wanted to explore with the cooperation and instruction of your guides and teachers who helped you design your life. So if you ignore your passions, if you decide, I don't have time to paint, that's stupid, I keep getting the urge to do it, but I don't have time, I'm busy making lunches for the PTA, or whatever it is that you have chosen to do, you are actually doing yourself a disservice. We want you to really begin to try and balance the obligations that you have taken on in this lifetime, parenting, for example, or working with a charity or volunteering somewhere. We want you to balance your passions with those things. We don't want you to give up your passions, your interests, deem them as self-centered or selfish, because your society has this deep indoctrination around suffering and sacrifice. So as we go through these increasing energies, some of your ignored passions, some of your ignored positive attributes or associations are going to begin to make themselves more felt. Some of you who have been able to put your musical fascination on the back burner will begin to get an overwhelming urge to listen to that part of yourself. And this is part of the escalating energies, the galactic escalation that is happening, is bringing truth to the surface. And so we have at times talked about what you might consider the negative side of that coin, which is that you are going to see your shadows, you are going to feel your addictions more, you are going to have revealed to you more family issues that have been either hidden or partially dealt with, but not completely dealt with. The little dregs of those forgiveness practices are going to come up. But also the the positive side of that coin is that your passions are going to become more clear. Your desire to help humanity may become more clear. You may feel more drawn to develop your purpose, even though you may not know what it is. But you have a stronger and stronger attraction to benefiting not only yourself through listening to your passions, because that's ultimately who benefits the most, is you listening to your passions. But the passions will lead you on a journey to and through aspects of your consciousness that you would not otherwise access. And so we want you to pay attention to this. If you're getting the overwhelming urge to write that book that you've always thought you have in you, begin now. Do not worry about how it's going to get published. Do not worry about if it's going to be successful. Do not worry about telling anyone about it. You are only going to get their conditioned beliefs and ideas about writing, and that will probably not be supportive. But if you are getting that feeling, I really feel this book is knocking on the back of my head. Boop, 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 write me, please. I want you to write me, please. Start it. Do not think, oh, I haven't got time. Everyone has 24 hours in the day. Everybody has 16 hours or so a day that they can do with their time, what they will do with it. And so even if you dedicate half an hour to writing that book and you think, well, it'll take years and years if I do that, we guarantee you that if you start writing, suddenly a couple of hours will have gone by. Then the artistic muse will begin to knock more loudly on your door, and you might find you spend a whole Sunday afternoon writing in your book. You might find that new ideas are coming in, and the desire to research other subjects that are going to be companions to that book or part of that book, and the creative channel will begin to squeak rustily open, and the cascade of information will be coming through you. So the same thing if you are thinking about growing your own food and you've been getting that nudge to go to the garden center, to put in a bed, to get a greenhouse perhaps. These are not erroneous and random ideas being generated by the ego. The ego's generally not interested in things like growing food. It might be more interested in eating food, but not so much growing of the food. It wants instantaneous results. It wants to keep things the same. When these ideas come up about doing things differently, trying new things, this is spirit knocking on your door. Do not think about the consequences too much. Do not over-explain yourself. You can just say, I'm putting in a garden. People will go, okay, you don't have to say spirit guided me to put in a garden and start that whole conversation. You can just quietly go about your business. And this is something else that we would like to address in this opening conversation, is that we would like you not necessarily to broadcast to everybody what you are up to. Some beings are asked to share their spiritual awakening process, and it will be done with a feeling. They will have a feeling. I think I should make a Facebook post about this, or I think I should tell my sister about this. But others of you will have other guidance where you say, I don't think I should mention this. And we want you to begin to trust in all of these messages coming through. It can come through as a wave of knowing. It can come through as a little light bulb moment where you think, oh, I shouldn't mention this. I should just do it and let people see for themselves what I'm up to. Each one of you is going to be guided differently. Your personalized spiritual information stream is exactly that. It is personalized for you based on the lessons that you are determined to learn in this lifetime and based on your family situation. For some beings, speaking up might induce a riot in the family or a wave of attack, and those beings will be guided to keep it a little more quiet. Some of you will be getting a soapbox out and broadcasting it on YouTube, and that is fine, whatever you are guided to do. This is really about trusting. This is about developing trust in life. As the energies escalate, as the old system begins to break down more and more, you're being asked to step up your purpose more and more. So if you have conflicting aspects of your consciousness, one that is full of obligations and, we will say, reluctant servitude to others, and you have got these other ideas coming up now, we want you to make sure that you make time for yourself, because the things that you are being urged to learn, the things that you are being urged to do, the things that you are being urged to participate in are of significance. Otherwise, you would not be getting the urge to do them. And you are going to have a different feeling between the sacrificial obligation focused life that may be at play and the passionate, exciting, unrelenting curiosity that's coming from this other part of your mind. And it is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. So in your choices now, we want you to be aware of this, and we want you to be aware that there may be some conflict coming up, and there may be some fear being generated by that conflict. What will happen if I say no to this person who I've always said yes to? What will happen if I call a family meeting and say, I've been doing all the caregiving here, we need to talk to each other and delegate amongst ourselves equally? Let's say if you have siblings that are looking after an elderly parent, often one will step up, the others might say, oh, I'm too far away, I'm too busy. Well, if they're too far away or too busy, then they can contribute something financially so that you are not bearing the brunt of it and therefore not listening to your guidance. These are some of the things that people who consider themselves deeply Christian will have trouble with, because they will feel the upset from the other siblings, for example, and they will think, I'm being bad by upsetting my other siblings. No, you're not. You are speaking a truth that's arising from within you, and it is okay to say, I need help. If you can't give help in time, then I would like help financially so that I can hire a respite caregiver so that I can have a break. And this is something that is perfectly okay to say. When you feel guilt, you are going back into the ego's world. When you feel inspiration, optimism, happiness, curiosity, desire for expansion, you are in spirit's world. So be aware of the feelings that you are generating by the behaviors and thoughts that you are exhibiting. There are some great adventures coming your way on this planet, and they are all positive. When we look at the transformations that are coming your way on your planet, they are all positive. We repeat ourselves, we know, but we want you to understand that transformation as it is laid out in this timeline is an evolutionary miracle. You are going to see in this generation the kind of evolution that before took thousands of years. And this is why it can be a rocky road. This is why it can be full of emotion and full of physical energy. Some of you are having massive energy shifts and energy pulses through your physical body in preparation for developing the skills and the attitudes that are going to be required as your planet goes through this transformation. It is really, really ramping up now. Somebody asked about the solstice energies, and so we will address that here. Your physical world is a demonstration of consciousness. You do not think of it that way, although your evolving society is beginning to see and understand that everything has consciousness, whether it's a cell in a piece of fence or a dog or a plant or the sun. Everything physical in this world is a manifestation of consciousness. Consciousness demonstrating its qualities through its physical attributes. So, for example, if you have a dog that is manifesting tremendous dedication and love and loyalty, that is that aspect of consciousness representing itself in the form of a beloved pet. If you see a volcano erupting, this too is a level of consciousness. That is the volatility and the power and strength of the underworld showing itself through the surface of the planet. It literally is going to be representing how you would describe it. A volcano is at times very quiet, but underneath it is building power. And so you are going to see increases in volcanic activity over the next few years. But we do not want you to be frightened of it. We want you to say, that is the hidden, the underground power that has been kept quiet, making itself known. And so when you have the alignments of planets or the extreme versions of planetary bodies, solar bodies showing themselves, you are getting the same information. So when you are in the Northern Hemisphere and you have the summer solstice, this is a point of the most light of the year. And as you are increasingly feeling the energies of light coming from the galactic center, they're coming in waves from the galactic center. These are like heartbeats, if you will, and they are increasing just as if you were going for a run. You are putting more energy out, your heartbeat goes faster. And so the galactic center is putting out more energy, and so the heartbeat is going faster. Now, there are many mitigating factors being employed by various aspects of your 3D, 4D, 5D reality at this time. And some of your highly evolved extraterrestrial brothers and sisters are doing their best to limit the damage done by these increasing light frequencies. And so it is coming in a somewhat moderated form so that no fuses get broken, literally and figuratively. There will be a point on your planet where some fuses begin to blow. And this is not something to fear. If you see a massive blackout in Europe, for example, don't go into the conspiracy side of that. Just say, the waves of light were too much for that old system to handle. There will be some events like this arising in the next few years, some this year. Do not go into fear. It is so important for you to welcome this consciousness shift. It is so important for you to welcome the energy shifts you feel in your own body. It is so important for you to welcome the nagging desire to deal with an old resentment in a loving way. It is important for you to say, I am on this train and I'm going for the ride that it's taking me on. Because when you put your foot on the brake and go into fear, then the whole system, the escalating energy system, and your powerful decision to say no begins to burn out your engine, so to speak. You know what happens when you put your foot on the gas and the brake of a car at the same time. The engine and the tires are not going to last very long. The same thing happens with the human body. It is an electrical and mechanical, spiritual, physical, and emotional combined system. And what we want to impress upon you is this willingness to grow, this willingness to expand, this willingness to let go of the past. You don't have to know how to do it. Just be willing to do it. And Spirit will do the rest for you and bring to you a situation, person, place, or thing, or experience that is going to help facilitate that willingness to do something. And if you are willing to expand, it could be that through your job, you get an opportunity to learn something new, to go on a workshop. If it is a willingness to let go of an old resentment, you might find that that person shows up and says, I'd really like to talk to you. And if you are prepared in your willingness, you will not be triggered. You will know, this is for the benefit of humanity. This giving up of this resentment is for the benefit of humanity and for my own personal peace. Because that is what peace comes from. It comes from a mind that is not arguing with itself, that is not in conflict. It comes from a mind that is aligned with the truth, aligned with love. And whenever anything comes up from the deep subconscious or unconscious mind, it forgives it and it moves on relatively quickly. Peace cannot reside in a mind that has conflicting beliefs. And so if you lose your peace or you have no peace, you want to look at where you're fighting with yourself. You may be in a job and you may be saying, I hate my job, I want to leave. But you get up and you go to your job every day. I hate my job, I want to leave. But you get up and go to your job every day. That will cause a feeling of fear in you because the mind cannot be at peace. And it is flipping from one belief to another that are in opposition to each other. And so it will bring up negative emotion. So this is one of the places where you can preemptively do some work without waiting for the situation to become intolerable. You can witness where you have conflict. You can say, I'm spending time looking after this elderly parent, but I want to go back to school and learn how to XYZ. But I can't because I'm overly committed over here. How can I shift my timetable so that I can do my work as well as be that supportive person for that person who needs some help? We understand that your conditioning makes some of these things difficult, but we want to impress upon you that this is not going to go away. It is not going to get less. It is going to get more. And so any preemptive shifts and changes that you can be willing to even entertain in your mind are going to help you begin to manifest that which you are seeking. Remember, you have the right to live however you wish. You will never be punished for following your passions. You will never be punished for choosing to love yourself over another. Now, this seems to go against basic Christian teachings. But we want you to understand that you must love yourself and appreciate yourself and follow your passions and educate yourself in whatever way is attractive to you so that you can reach your full potential. And you will be of more benefit to everybody once your cup is full and once your cup is running over. But because of the distortions of your societal conditioning programs, many of you will feel a real terror at actually breaking free from those conditioning systems. And we have suggested to you many times, do it in small increments. Do it with things that are not that important. If your family has a huge Christmas every year, but you really don't want to participate in it, first of all, back out of something smaller with the family that is something that you do not enjoy. It might be a summer barbecue or it might be a birthday party. And just make small excuses. Do not say, I don't want to do anything with you guys, but I'm only stopping this thing for now. Just say, I've got some other things that have come up on my plate and I really need to attend to them. And you will hear the squeaks and the complaints, but you will get to see that the world doesn't end when you begin to take your own path. The family structures, as they are designed in your society, can use guilt and shame and anger often to get what they want. And this is your clue that it is not the right path for you when these kinds of strategies are used. Also, make sure that you are not using those kinds of strategies, because if your family is using them, you are probably using them too, because you were raised and chose that family as your birth training program, so to speak. So all in all, when you look at the summer solstice, you are seeing the extreme light event for this year. And it is good to address some of the issues that we have brought up, because you have the greatest access to light, which means you have the greatest access to knowledge, and you have the greatest access to love when all of this light is beaming down on you. Of course, it applies in the opposite way in the Southern Hemisphere, and so do that on your December 21st. December 21st in the Northern Hemisphere will be the time that you go deep inside, that you go quietly into the dark and ask yourself what's going on in there. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and we will return shortly. All right, that's quite a long chatty poo. Okay. Uh-oh. I have done something different here. Hang on. So I've got to find my notes, which I thought were, oh, there we are. Okay. My other computer's charging system is acting up, so I had to do everything on this one. Normally have to on the go. Okay. Could Jesus and Ananda tell us more about, oh, okay, that's what we just covered, that about the summer solstice levels. The next question is, should I get a smartwatch? So let's get Ananda to answer that one. Oh, we're with you again, dear ones. We, as always, are very pleased that you are coming together in this format, and we are very happy that you have made this commitment to do this work and to work together and with each other. We feel the camaraderie of this group building and building and building, and this is truly a global community that is coming into being. And there are true friendships and true relationships being forged, and people are finding a desire to hang out with those beings that they have perhaps met at a retreat, or that they have met online, or that they have dialogued with in a thread about a particular subject. And this is a valuable, valuable gathering of beings, and it will in the future serve the planet very, very well. You are already serving the planet because you are shifting and changing your frequencies. But we want you to know that there will be some huge gatherings of this group at some point in the future where you will all be able to come together and spend some time together. So you can look forward to that and envision that it will come to pass. Do not get smartwatches. That is the answer to this question. Anything that is smart is invasive. Anything that is smart in your world now, smart TVs, smart washing machines, smart refrigerators, smart watches, smartphones, they are smarter than you. They are collecting information from you, and they are using that information to drive your behavior in particular directions. So this is done through the tyranny of increments. That means that if they see that you're going to the same store all the time but buying a certain kind of product, which they will see if you're wearing a smartwatch or carrying your smartphone with you, they will begin to work with those marketing giants, food giants, for example, or pharmaceutical giants, or alcohol delivery systems, or whatever it is that you're using. And they will begin to use that particular fancy of yours, whatever that fancy is, to shift your beliefs and thoughts and ideas about reality. And so you will be given information that is going to change how you perceive the world. Now, people could say, well, that's all that's happening here. You are being given information about how to change your perception of reality. That is true. But we are telling you, and you can tell over the years and years of us being together with you, that we bring forth ideas that are loving, ideas that are expansive, ideas that increase your freedom, your choice. The opposite is being done with these smart devices. Now, a message was given to our dear one very, very clearly a few years ago to back away from her phone. Well, she has basically had a phone phobia all her life. Phones have never interested her. She found them very intrusive. So she was an easy person to shift away from using the phone all the time. We do not mind her having a smartphone for when she's traveling and when she's about to catch a plane. It's good for her to have information coming in, and there are upsides to having these smartphones. But we want you to understand what they're truly being used for. They are a shepherding system. So use your phone with caution. Do not carry it with you everywhere. You do not need to carry it with you everywhere. You do not need to have it on your person. For example, if you are going into the mall or the supermarket, or you're going into the movie theater, you can power your phone down or put it on airplane mode if you are waiting for an important message. Most of you really aren't waiting for important messages. You're waiting for messages, but not important messages necessarily. Put that phone on airplane mode, turn it off, and leave it in the car while you go into the shopping center. Leave it in the car while you go into the movie theater. It doesn't need to be with you all the time. And if you feel that you have important messages that might be arriving, your son or daughter might need a ride, check on it when you get back in the car. Begin to have family discussions with those that you are in contact with on your phones and say, look, I'm not going to be carrying my phone with me wherever I go. You should never take it on a walk with you. We understand that they have really good cameras in them, but that is a device to get you to take your phone with you wherever you go. That is why the cameras are so good. That is why they are there, to convince you to take your phone with you wherever you go. If you go on a walk, for example, and you find a beautiful rose bush along the way and you don't have your phone with you, come back with your phone and take that picture if it's that beautiful. But do not by rote take your phone with you wherever you go. And tell your family and friends that you're going to do this, so that if they're used to an instantaneous reply from you, that they are now likely to expect an hour or two delay with that messaging. Obviously, there are circumstances when you're traveling or someone's picking somebody up where you have to be on your phone to get that information, and that is okay. But do not do it by rote throughout the day. It is simply distracting you, and it is leading you down a pathway that in the future may be less beneficial than you think. Now, of course, we do not focus on fear-mongering, but we do tell you the truth so you know what to take seriously. And a smartwatch is going to be something that is invasive. It is producing an electromagnetic field that will be impinging upon the blood, the bone, the cellular structure, the nervous system in the part of the body that it is attached to. And it is going to have a detrimental health effect. We want you to get as natural as possible. That means we want you to be eating unprocessed food. If it comes in a cardboard box, it's probably processed. If it's down the center aisles of your supermarket, it's probably processed. Do not eat processed food. It does not live. It is not close enough to light to give you benefit. It is, in fact, detrimental as these escalating energies are increasing the frequency of your body. Some of you may, in fact, really feel that you cannot eat some of the things that you used to eat before. The way you are trained in your society is to see this as a pathology. There must be something wrong with me. I don't want to eat pork pies anymore. It upsets my stomach, or I feel sick afterwards. No, it is just the increasing frequency of your body saying this is not acceptable energy source for us. Could we please have a spinach salad? Could we please have an organic peach? Could we please have something that is living and will rot if you leave it on the shelf for a couple of days? This is another way for you to tell what to ingest. If you leave something on the shelf for a couple of days, will it begin to grow fungus? That means the bacteria see it as food. The fungus sees it as food. It means it's alive. If you can open a box of crackers in your cupboard 6 months after you've bought them and they are still the same, that is not food. That is a food-like product that is masquerading as food. If bacteria won't eat it, you shouldn't eat it. So be happy when you see your fruit going off. Know that you've got a good source of something there. The food systems on your planet have become increasingly poisonous. It is imperative now for you, with these increasing frequencies, to choose as much of your diet in the organic form as possible, in the unprocessed form as possible. It is simply the way it is. A couple of 1,000 years ago, when Jesus was walking the earth, it was not an issue. He did not really have to talk too much about food. Everything was grown in the backyards and the local fields. The animals were nurtured and cared for. They were humanely slaughtered when they were killed. They grazed on the natural, unpolluted shrubs and branches of the local environment. It is not that way now. It is important for you to understand that you are going to have more and more health problems if the contaminated food is continued to be eaten. We do not want to make you frightened, but it is important for you, especially those of you in the United States or in places that do not have free healthcare, that you are going to pay one way or the other. You are going to pay at the doctor's office or at the insurance, or you are going to pay at the grocery store. So we want you to continue to adjust your eating. We understand that you cannot change everything at once. And as we have done for many years, we counsel you to pick the things that you eat the most of. Find a healthy, organic form of those things so that the thing that is constantly going in your body is close to light. This is what we are seeking here. We are seeking an alignment with light and love and healing. And so we want you, when you're shopping, to look at your list and say, is this thing close to light and love and healing? If I only ate this thing, would I be healthy? Would it improve my health, or would it be a detriment to my health? And it is very, very easy to see. Also, when you are grocery shopping, this is a place where it's really good to get into a listening phase where you say, please guide me to the things that are going to be the most beneficial for my awakening process. We understand it is a big assignment, and that some of you are going to have feelings of fear or distress coming up when we bring the subject up again. Just be aware that that is the ego's response to change. It is the ego's response to spending a little bit more money on good nutrition. And it is the ego's response to being having suggestions made. The ego does not like to be told what to do. So do not let that feeling of distress confuse you. Remember, the ego wants security, it wants the same stuff, and it is programmed by your society to believe that all of these foods are okay. They are not okay. The beings that spray these foods with pesticides have to wear protective gear, and they are themselves under a great deal of threat. So do your best in this department, and remember that nature is your friend in this way. Being without devices is the best way to go. Even if you have to do it in small increments initially because you are a bit addicted to it, that is fine. But keep pushing the boundary of that comfort zone. Keep pushing to say, okay, now I'm going to go 3 or 4 hours without my phone. I'm going to go 3 or 4 hours without being on the computer. Yes, we understand some of you, and our dear one is one of those beings that has a business that is online. If you have to go online, make sure that you are working for something that will benefit humanity. It is hard for some of you who are deeply immersed in the workaday world, doing things that you find challenging or difficult or that you no longer love. But we will tell you, change your mind first before you change your behavior. See yourself working at what it is that you want to work at. Envision this. It is, yes, leaving the present, but you are at least cultivating an image of something that you do want to do, rather than sitting in dissatisfaction saying, I can't stand this anymore. Sitting in dissatisfaction saying, I can't stand this anymore, will make you feel bad. Sitting in your workplace or wherever it is that you would prefer not to be, envisioning a different life, will make you feel good, because your body does not know the difference between looking at fantasy and looking at reality, as you call it. If you are envisioning in your mind looking at something different than what you are actually doing, your body will respond. Everything, your frequency will respond to the thing that you are desiring, to the thing that you are focusing on. So do make that a part of your day. If you find yourself cramped, if you find yourself feeling stuck, make the changes in your mind first and stop worrying about the doing of it, but see yourself buying organic food. See yourself doing the work you love. See yourself healthier. See yourself fitter. See yourself out in nature more. And it will have to manifest, because you are changing the projector, you are changing your mind, and that is where everything must change first of all. We will return shortly. Ooh, they're getting on us to do things differently. Sorry about this light, but there's a skylight that chases me around the room at this time of day. All right. Oh, that's not the right thing. Hang on. I'm just going to have a little sip of tea. So just chat amongst yourselves for a minute. Oh, okay. I just got to take a little breath here. The next question. After listening to Tina's channeling of the Arcturian on your Crete retreat, it brought up questions about non-dualism and the one mind. Are Arcturians and Ananda part of the illusion? Are we one mind with them as well? Or are we only one mind with all beings in the third dimension? For me, all of these different dimensional beings seem to bring up a lot of ideas about separation. Can you clarify? Thank you. Okay. I'm going to reread that. After listening to Tina's channeling of the Arcturians on your Crete retreat, it brought up questions about non-dualism and the one mind. Are the Arcturians and Ananda part of the illusion? Are we one mind with them as well? Or are we only one mind with all beings in the third dimension? For me, all of these different dimensional beings seem to bring up a lot of ideas about separation. Can you clarify? Thank you. Jolly good question. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. This is a place of separation, and all you are witnessing in all of these iterations of consciousness, whether it be a leaf or a bird or a dog or a human or an Arcturian, are levels of manifestation of that separation. It is a physical universe in which you find yourselves on this particular timeline. And by physical, we mean that you use your senses to feel, taste, touch, listen. But beyond that, there are other levels of consciousness that are not involved in separation. So, for example, I am bringing myself down in frequency to come into this particular physical body structure, to appear as an individual once again, to communicate with you because you have a certain format of communication in individuation that requires us to do the work in this kind of way. Although we are always encouraging you, as you know, to listen to your dreams, to listen to your creativity, to listen to unusual ideas, to listen to feelings, because that is our preferred method of communication, because we are all connected. You all believe that you are separate. And so we must come to you through methodologies that start where you are and lead you along the path to oneness. So in different dimensional expressions of consciousness, you are going to have increasing or decreasing aspects of separation depending on which direction you are going in. As you go down to the lower realms of 3D, that is where you get tribalism and defensiveness and people who are only working for themselves, who are greedy, grasping, these kinds of things. If you go below the third dimensional frequency, you will get into a realm where beings are constantly attacking and constantly draining people of energy. And that would be the lower spiritual entities that are unpleasant to be around, but you won't feel them if you're not at the bottom of 3D. If you are doing your forgiveness practice, you are choosing love more and more, you are honoring yourself more and more, you're being kind to yourself and others more and more, you are tuning into that love frequency, you are going to go up to the higher levels of 3D. This is what is happening to this being. Through her decades of forgiveness practice, she has crept up that frequency scale, and some of you are also doing it too. When you're channeling, you are more quickly going up the frequency scale because of the escalating energies. Everything is facilitating this increase in frequency. And so you are able to make contact with beings that are above you a little bit. We will lower our frequency to come down into your realm. Now, there are many, many highly evolved extraterrestrial beings who would be considered at the highest levels of 3D. They are still in your time-space reality, but they have mastered the material physical world and are not beholden to some of the lower realms, so some of the laws that the lower realms are beholden to. So as you go up in frequency, you are getting less and less separated, more and more unified, not only externally, but internally. It is the internal process of reunification, the atonement, forgiveness, coming into a place of peace, which is wholeness, being holy. You are stepping away from separation. So there is an infinite number of iterations on that scale, from intense separation, which will bring into being depression and suicidal tendencies, addictions, these kinds of things, up through the medium into the higher levels of 3D, where you are now teetering on the edge of going into a more loving manifestation phase. So the fourth dimensional bridge between 3D and 5D is through the heart chakra, through compassion, through loving kindness. And it is that process that you are now verging on in your society. More and more people are getting tired of the lower 3D indoctrinations and are seeking connection with those higher realms. So eventually, once you get out of the physical manifestations of being in a body, a separated body, you are no longer in that realm of separation. And those of us on this side of the veil are no longer in that place of separation, except when we communicate with you and come down further in frequency, so that we can use these devices that you call bodies to communicate with you, to call you up into the higher realms. So the reality, quote unquote, of separation decreases as you increase your frequency and increases as you decrease your frequency. So if you are feeling lonely and separated and isolated and alone, there is more work to be done, focusing on your spiritual practice, focusing on appreciation, focusing on gratitude, focusing on loving yourself in ways that you are not yet loving yourself. And so as peace increases, the integration of the mind, the reunification of the mind increases, and you do not feel as separate from your brothers and sisters. And some of you will have overwhelming feelings of love for humanity, for example, as you are reaching the higher levels of 3D reality. And so the names and the places from which some of these extraterrestrial beings are hailing are indeed in 3D, up 4D, lower 5D, 6D. They are going to come from different places, but they always must give you information in a way that you can handle it. And you will notice that in some of the recordings, some of the higher frequency beings are not very specific about where they come from and what they look like, because they are not coming from the same separated, specific, I must know all the details kind of frequency. They are coming from a more egalitarian, more love-based, less physically based world. So the increasing focus on physicality that your society constantly indoctrinates you into is done in an effort to keep you out of those higher 3D realms, where you begin to lose your focus on the body, where you begin to focus more on your creativity, more on love, more on self-expression. The lower 3D realms cause you to focus on death, sickness, financial fear, physicality, purchasing items, materialism, and all of those things will make you feel bad. So if you are feeling bad about yourself or about your life or about something that you're up to, go into that subject and ask, okay, I'm feeling bad. I must be in the lower realms of 3D on this subject. How can I bring this aspect of my life up into a higher frequency? Am I being loving enough to myself here, or am I sacrificing myself? Am I getting good nutrition, or am I eating a lot too much processed food? Where is the bad feeling coming from? We are very, very clear throughout many of these texts and all of these transmissions how you raise your frequency. Go out in nature more, drink more water, make sure that you're not eating polluted food, do your forgiveness practice. All of these things work together to bring you up that ladder away from separation and into unity consciousness. And that is where your earth is heading. There will be a split between the uninformed and the uneducated, and those that have taken these relentless opportunities to choose love. There will be a split happening between those two earths, if you will. But you must remember, as you are raising your frequency, not to go into fear about that, because then you will plummet your frequency again. So trust in the process that you are all involved in. Our dear one trusts in this process. She knows that as she follows these teachings, as she does her forgiveness work, as she increases the peace of mind that she experiences, she does not have to worry about what's going to happen to her. Regardless of anything else, she knows that the frequency she is holding is more loving than it used to be, more generous than it used to be, kinder than it used to be. And it also has some healthier boundaries than she used to have. She used to have boundaries that would allow people to take from her things that she did not want taken from her. And now she has boundaries that say firmly, you stay in your lane and I'll stay in my lane and we will get along fine. But please don't step into my lane and start taking from me. If I want to give you something, I will give it to you. And this is perfectly okay. So if you have set up a system with family members where you are giving more than is comfortable, you are now feeling, this is really not sitting well with me. That means that you're off track a little bit, and it's very, very good to reevaluate what you're up to in terms of obligations. Obligations are things that you chose to do a long time ago, but don't feel good anymore. At some point, it was okay for you to do those things. Otherwise, you would not have done it. But now it has become a burden that is detrimental to your frequency. So understand always that your guidance system is impeccable and constant, and it is always giving you information about where you are on your frequency scale. Trust it, love it, and listen to it every day and see if you can improve your frequency by just paying attention to the level of separation that you are experiencing. So to answer your question, there are endless levels of separation. Lower frequencies bring more. Higher frequencies bring less. We will speak to you again shortly. Okay. Everybody's still there? All right, everyone's still there. Where is that thing? Okay, more tea. Just give me a moment to give my voice a little rest. Okay. The next question, do we as spirit experience incarnations as different forms, including animals, trees, etc.? Is it possible, for example, that a person's dog could come back as their human child? I would love to hear what Jesus or Ananda have to say about the subject. Okay, let's see what Ananda has to say. We're with you again, dear ones. You have a multiplicity of opportunities to experience different things within your own consciousness as the being that you understand yourself to be. You will not come back as a dog, for example, but you may split a little bit of your oversoul off to come in with you as a dog. Consciousness is ever flowing. It is ever intermingling with itself. And so you can actually transfer your consciousness from yourself to other kinds of beings in terms of plants, birds, animals. This is what the animal communicators, the horse whisperers, are doing. They are tuning in their consciousness to another consciousness. And this is how we would suggest that you have this experience where you practice communicating with your parakeet, or you practice communicating with your horse, or you practice communicating with your children telepathically. You're all telepathic, but it has been trained out of you. You have been trained to use other devices. You've been trained to use words. You've been trained to overly rely on the intellect and thinking. In what you would call more primitive societies, the telepathic use of consciousness transfer is much more common because they have not been seduced into the mechanical industrial age as you have been. This was a transformation that was quite detrimental to these intuitive skills that are absolutely natural. You are beginning to return to them now because you are feeling the call to nature. You are feeling the call to consciousness evolution. And so it seems as if you are going backwards a little bit to being in nature, gardening, communing with plant divas and birds and these kinds of things. Fairies, there are beings who can communicate with those little aspects of consciousness that you call fairies, and elves and gnomes. They are real beings that have drifted in and out of your dimension for eternity. And in the olden days, before televisions and before mechanization and before cities were calling everyone to become an urban dweller, people used to hang out with those little beings and communicate with them and dance with them at times. So what has happened in your world is a limiting, a shutting down, and a negation of your natural tendencies towards fluid consciousness. And that is something that we would encourage all of you to do when you are out in nature. Of course, you're out in nature without your phone. So when you're sitting on that log in the woods, you are not going to be scrolling through your Facebook feed. You are going to be present. You are going to breathe. You are going to look around you. And we would suggest that you do some psi-time experiments. That would be like psychological time experiments where you are communing with a tree, for example. You may begin to send a message to this tree that you see in front of you. And you may say, hello, my name is such and such, and I am trying to learn to access other levels of consciousness within this 3D time-space reality that I call my life. And there you are, beautiful tree. I think you have lovely leaves. I think your bark is very, very interesting. It's a beautiful color. I see the grass growing around your roots. I wonder if you could send me a message. I'm going to sit here quite quietly, asking for you to send me a message, and then I will sit and listen. Do these experiments. You will begin to get images, ideas, feelings. You may even get direct verbal communication from the tree. You may even hear something. But of course, none of you are taught to do this in your reality. None of you are taught to experiment with your consciousness this way. You are driven by your programming to do other things. But now is the time to slow down. Now is the time to open up. Now is the time to revisit this ancient part of your consciousness. And you have such a magnificent minds that have been intentionally and repeatedly over many, many, many years been shut down through trauma, through restriction, through punishment, through pain, through threat, into these smaller aspects of yourself. And this is why there is a desire to find out about past life experiences, why there is a desire to expand your consciousness, because you know innately that you have been taken down in frequency over a long period, and that this curiosity is arising once again. So this is an experiment that we would really like you all to begin to participate in. Communicate with your plants in the garden. Stroke the tomato plants and tell them that you're very grateful that they're going to be growing you some lovely tomatoes. And if they have any messages for you, to let you know what they would prefer. And you may find that you, the next day, find yourself buying some natural fertilizer because you think, oh, I think the tomatoes need something. You think, where did that idea come from? It came from your tomato plants communicating with you because you asked them a question. You said, how are you doing? Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. And lo and behold, an idea will come into your mind. Oh, maybe I should cut that branch back a little bit so they get a bit more sun. Maybe I'm watering them a bit too much. Maybe I should back off on the watering a little bit. And you will think, oh, goodness, I have had some ideas about my tomatoes in the last few days. I think they're communicating with me. So set these things up and trust in the information. The ego is the doubting part of the mind. It is the fearful part of the mind. It is the conditioned part of the mind. It is the separation part of the mind. So it is not going to like any of these suggestions. It is not going to do them. But the part of you that is waking up, the part of you that is connected to spirit, the part of you that is part of nature will begin to do these things because it is curious. It wants to expand. It wants to grow. It wants to love. It wants to feed itself. It wants to nurture itself. It is loving. It is divine. We will speak to you again shortly. Okay. Okay. The next question for Jesus. Basically, how do we know whether what we do can affect someone's experience? For example, if you were to kill someone before they had the experience that they wanted to have on the earth, would the fact that they were killed become the experience, or would they have to come back over and over until they experienced what was intended? I think the concept is that we project all of our life and death from our mind, including how others affect us, but I'm still unclear on how all of that is synchronized perfectly between everyone's projections, creations. How are 7 billion reality fabrications synced up, especially when they all have free will? It's a very good question. Who's in charge of this? All right, let's see what Jesus has to say. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And this is why we tell you to stay in your own lane, because you cannot understand this amazing, amazing confluence of intelligence and creativity and love and fear. It is like trying to watch a movie and yet cut that film apart. So you know how in a projector in the old days, there was a film and there were little frames, each one a tiny bit different. And when they are played fast, you get the illusion of movement. You get the illusion of sound. You get a movie that you can become immersed in. We want you to understand that to understand the movie, which is what this question is about, how is all this playing out, how is it all happening, would be like trying to watch the movie and cut it apart at the same time. You are simply not equipped to understand the level of infinite possibility and probability that is at play here. You do, in fact, create different branches, different alternative timelines at major decision points. It is happening all the time. So if somebody gets killed, that is one timeline where they got killed at 35. In another timeline, they may live to be 96. And those are all valid lifetimes. But because of the sensory input devices that you have, sight, sound, taste, touch, hearing, the body is the thing that restricts you. So this is why in Buddhist teachings, they say, do not be deceived by the body. Do not be deceived by your senses, because the senses are designed to prevent you from being holistic in view. They are designed to keep you hooked into the illusion. So this is why we seek to get you to practice your internal life, to shift your internal life and not focus on the body so much, because then you begin to tune into the ability to manifest more and more of that which you want to experience. But you cannot think your way out of this. You must evolve your way out of it. There are no interactions between you and another that are not okay. If somebody commits murder, on some level, that was the agreement that that character in their play made with them. If they decide to get married and have babies, that's the agreement that that person decided, or that aspect of their consciousness decided to make with them. So if you think about it clearly, every single experience that you are having is one of free will. You walk into a room and you talk to somebody. You are doing that inside your mind. Yes, your body seems to follow along, and this is the grand dance of the illusion that the body seems so real. But you use your body to prove your body's real, which is not very sound science. If you can see something, you think it's real, but you are using the body's senses to do that. And that means that you have a self-fulfilling prophecy, that you are seeing with the body's eyes and using that as proof of the reality of something that is actually taking place in your mind. The eyes are the gateway to your consciousness. It is your consciousness that determines how you interpret what you see. It is not the eyes. It is your consciousness. So everything is coming through the filter of your consciousness. And it is that that changes reality. It is that which you need to focus on. So how are all these billions of people co-creating? Well, you are all in agreement that you want to have these kinds of experiences at the level of separation that you find yourselves at. Remember, there are many iterations of the level of separation. So there are some of you on this planet that are experiencing war and famine. There are some of you on this planet that are experiencing wealth and abundance. You are all within the 3D realm, and you are all playing out that which is in accord with your own frequency, that which is in accord with your own desire for learning, that which is in accord for your own level of accomplishment. And it is a co-creative dream in that sense, because it's a lot more interesting. If you are in a white room with no features, and you cannot have an experience there. So you envision yourself in a room that's painted white, that has white furniture, white walls, white everything. It is not until there is something else in the room that you begin to be able to have a relationship with it. So if you are in a white snowstorm, there is nothing for you to interrelate with. However, when a black bear shows up in your snowstorm, suddenly you have relative experience so that you can have an experience. The same thing happens in this 3D reality, 3D world that you call your life. Everything that is in relation to you is what gives you the opportunity for experience. If nothing's there, then you don't have anything to experience except yourself. The truth is, you are experiencing yourself when you meet somebody. You are experiencing your opinions of them. You are experiencing your judgments of them. You are experiencing your sight, taste, touch, smell of them. It's all happening within your consciousness. So be concerned about your consciousness. Be concerned about how you are filtering the world. Be concerned about how loving you are to yourself and others, because that is the decision that will shift your frequency up into a level that will allow you to have a new experience. So don't think about this too much. It will confuse you. It will confound you, because you are not designed to understand it. It is in your intermediary periods between lifetimes that you get shown some of these things, because you are in a frequency, in a place where you can handle it. But you are being asked to trust in life, trust in the process, trust in your guidance system, trust in your passions, trust in your desires, trust in what you're interested in, to take you on a journey up through the levels of frequency that will lead you to the place where you can look down and around and through the illusion that is called Maya in the Buddhist way. Maya is illusion. It is you believing everything you see, believing that it's separate from you, believing that you have nothing to do with it, believing your senses. It is in cultivating your interior world that you will begin to get insight on how all of this works and how connected you are to everyone. You are, in fact, playing out a dreamscape. It feels as if you are alive because you have these very real separate bodies. But when you truly awaken, we're not speaking about dying here, but when you truly awaken from this dream, it will feel like a dream. And of course, if you are dreaming, you can dream up as many people as you want. There is no need for space. There is no need for furniture. You don't have to manufacture anything. You are just making these people up. They are aspects of the one mind. They are aspects of your consciousness being revealed to you so that you can learn, so that you have a relative experience through which you can evolve and change and have such a realistic journey that you believe it hook, line, and sinker. It is about becoming lucid dreamers. It is about understanding that, yes, you are walking through a field of poppies and it's beautiful and lovely, but this is like watching a movie in that sense. So we know that that answer is not necessarily totally comprehensible to you, but you are collectively experiencing consciousness. And the only consciousness that you can control is your own. Everyone has the ability and the right and the obligation to transform their own consciousness, but you are given an unlimited number of opportunities to come to that place where you look after your own mind and stop worrying about others, because you understand that if you look after your own mind, everything around you has to change. You are the projector, you are the creator, you are the captain of your ship, and you will see your surroundings shift and change as you change your mind to a more loving frequency. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and I will speak to you again shortly. Oh, goodness me. Okay, let's do one more. All right, well, okay, let me see here. I understand we all have an exit plan before coming into this earthly plane. Does taking one's life, suicide, a part of that exit plan? From my understanding, a person who chooses to end his or her life by suicide is driven by the ego as it takes over entirely and the mind gets totally distorted. Is suicide the ego acting out, or is it an exit plan? My favorite DJ, artist, songwriter, and producer died by suicide. His stage name was Avicii. I listened exclusively to his music because it gives me so much joy. However, at times it becomes so emotional for me when I listen to his music, when I think about what a genius he was at creating music and what a loss not having music released by him anymore. He made and still makes millions and millions of people dance for joy, and his music is heavenly. It touches the soul with its wonderful melodies and messages. When I feel a bit sad and become emotional sometimes while listening to Avicii's music, I wonder, is it the ego trying to reinforce the idea of death, separation into my subconscious? Or is it just my emotions? I am a Course in Miracles student, and I understand there is no such thing as death. We are all rather eternal beings. Okay. Let's see what Jesus has to say. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And this being did not commit suicide. This being was assisted off this plane by nefarious ne'er-do-wells. We tell you this so that you do not mistake what is going on here. There have been, over the last little while, quite a lot of people who are carrying the light, who have been assisted in leaving this planet. We do not focus on that crime. There are no sins. There is no death. This was an agreement of sorts. The being that you are referring to did not consciously understand his agreement. And so he was going through his life doing what he does, bringing music and light and inspiration to people. But in his pre-life agreement, there was an exit point there. But it was agreed upon by the perpetrator and this being. There was an agreement made that this is how they would interact in this particular incarnation. Now, the sadness that you feel is an indicator that you still believe in death. If you did not believe in death with all your heart and mind, it would not cause you sadness. You would see that there is a rightness to everything. Sometimes beings make an agreement to exit in a way that seems untenable to the living, but it is because they know what the grand plan is, because they are making that plan in their pre-birth arrangement. And so they may say, I killed you in another life, you can kill me in this life, that way we will each have the same experience. And I agree to that so that it negates the inequality of what we have experienced so far. So there may be issues like that going on when you see somebody who is taken young. Some beings, and we've mentioned this before, do not want to stay on Earth for a long time. They say, I'll go in for 5 years, I'll go in for 10 years, I'll go in for 23 years and work on what I can work on. But please give me an out so that I can come home and have a break, because it's quite hectic down there and I'd rather not stay too long. And if you choose to do that, you are allowed to do that. Some beings get longer assignments because they have opted out too early, too frequently. And sometimes you will be told in your pre-birth arrangements, no, you have to stay in until you're 70, at least 70. Try and get there. And the person in that pre-birth form may say, but it's so hard down there. I never like staying for very long. And we say, we know, but at least try it this time. But for many of you, this place is a hard place. When you are in a state of fear, when you are in a state of separation, it is extremely painful because you are made of love, from love, for love. Your home is love. You are made by love. And so as you sink down into further and further iterations of separation, it becomes more and more and more painful, and you have this overwhelming urge to return home. You are never punished if you are suiciding yourself. We understand that it is the best of a bad situation. You will, however, have to return to the circumstances that caused you to take your life so that you can come out of it in the next opportunity with more understanding of the mind, with more understanding of yourself, with more understanding of your strengths and your weaknesses. This is all about expansion. This is all about understanding. This is all about remembering who you are. So don't take those negative slides down the rabbit hole where you frighten yourself and immerse yourself in separation for a few hours. Be vigilant and diligent with your practices. Do your forgiveness work preemptively so that you understand on a daily basis you are doing the very best you can to raise your frequency up. Watch your emotions, watch your feelings, watch your guidance, and remember that you are okay. Everything is okay. You will be okay. There is no death. You are loved beyond your ability to understand it. You are given these opportunities in the flesh, so to speak, because that is the next thing that you need to learn to do. That is the next thing that you need to learn to master. And so do the best you can to master love today. Do the best you can to be kind to yourself today and not say nasty things to yourself today. Do your best today to treat others with respect, even if you don't want to hang out with them. Give them the benefit of the doubt and say, I may not agree with what you're doing, but it's none of my business. I am staying in my lane and I'm going to focus on creating the frequency and the life and the experience that I would like to have here. Understand that your life potential here is valuable opportunity that you will need to go over again if you do not squeeze all the juice out of it. If you lay on your couch for years and years and years, numbing yourself and hiding from the lessons and the experiences that are meant to come your way, then you will just get to come back again and you will get to do it again. So there really is no avoiding anything. So listen to those inspirations, listen to those nudges, listen to those feelings that you might like to do this or you might like to do that. Trust in your guidance system. It is designed by a loving benefactor so that you do not flounder too much here. It is given to you to guide you. It is given to you to lead you along your way. It is given to you so that you have passions in your life that you really, really enjoy. And within those experiences, you will all get to see your shadows. You will all get to see your fears. But if you listen to the passionate drives that incite you to creativity or incite you to adventure or incite you into whatever it is that you are excited about, you will have a good life. You will have a wonderful experience here. And yes, you will get to see your shadow, but it will be immersed and interspersed between such joyful experiences such as communion, love, creativity, purpose, and expansion. We thank you all for joining us today. We love these opportunities to speak. We love the fact that you love these opportunities to ask and interact with us. We are your guides and teachers, and we will speak to you again soon. Right. Whew. Okay. That's it, kids. Because I'm going to be doing the England retreat, there will be a live streaming next Sunday and the following Sunday. So I'm going to give you the dates here. Hang on. Sunday this. So it'll be Sunday the 7th and Sunday the 14th. Those will be our two next live streaming events. I think that's it. I think that's all the information I have. Right. Thanks everyone for joining me, and I'll see you again next Sunday. We need some questions, by the way. I don't have any library of questions now, so do pose the questions on the Facebook page. If you have not found access to the Facebook page, friend me now on my personal page, Tina Spalding. It's not Tina Spalding Spiritual Art. It's not the Ananda and Jesus page. It's just Tina Spalding. And I will hook you up with the Facebook page. So I'm going to go there now. Friend me there on Facebook now if you want to have access to the Facebook page. Love you all, and I'll see you all next Sunday. Bye.